Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alya Wulandari. I would like to do my reading report video for second language acquisition for a week 11 about the language transfer and fossilization. So we have a six of the learning focused about the transfer and interference, and then positive transfer, negative transfer, definition of fossilization, global and local fossilization, production and process of the fossilization. So I would like to explain about the first one, the transfer or interference. So transfers is like when we are um, bring something from our first language, or like bring our habit or behavior for our first language into our second language. So it can be help us, but sometimes it can be uh, causes of our mistakes or disturb our second language. And what the realization, transfer, and interference actually. So interference is like the bad side, or the something that is make mistake of the transfer, or when we are speak in our second language. So when our first language get disturbed of the rules, or confused, can be confused our second language. For example, like in Indonesia, it's like we say dia sangat pintar. And then in English, if we translate or we bring our rules of the grammar in Indonesia, it be he very smart. But it's wrong because we not used to be in there. We should used to be in English. So the correct sentence is he is very smart. So yeah, if we use like in the Indonesian rules of the grammar, for example, it's like no is. So that is example for interference. And then the second one is the positive transfer. So the positive transfer is like happens when our first language help us to learn the second language. So it's like opposite of the interference actually. For example, the same rules of the grammar in Indonesia and English. For example, like I have a pen. In English, in Indonesia is like saya punya pena, and in English we can say that is I have a book, I have a pen, for example. Is because our rules and the structure of the grammar is similar. So yeah, it's easy for us to learn, right? That is can be we call that as a positive transfer because it support us to learning. And then the negative transfer is negative transfer. It same with interference, that like when our first language disrupt or being a causes of errors in our second language. Example like interference I said before, but I will like to add some of the example. Maybe like she very beautiful, and the correct one is I'm not use is in our second language, because in Indonesia like dia sangat cantik, just like a she very beautiful, but it's the correct one is she is very beautiful. So uh, the transfers have four types of the transfer. It can be happen in in several different types. It's not just positive and negative actually. The first one is interlingual transfer. It's like error because our first language. And then interlingual transfer is like error that come from our second language itself. It can be overgeneralization. And then context of learning, like error caused by we are learning in the situation, maybe from the teacher, the textbooks, and the informant is wrong, so it's from context for learning. So a transfer can come from our first language, our second language itself, and the learning environment. The next is fossilization. So the definition is fossilization is like the errors that become frozen or stuck. So when we are learn a second language for a long time, but we still keeps making the same mistake even after the years of study and practice. Maybe like I always wrong in the grammar when I make a past tense sentence, for example. I always uh, repeat. I always keeps making the same mistake when I make the grammar since I maybe, for example, since I junior high school. And also the example is like when the people is like live in America like 20 and 13 years old, but they are still say like he go to school instead of he goes to school. It's like the mistake is become of habit. It's have the realization too from the transfer or interference too, because like it's from habit, right? So that's we can call that as fossilizate or fossilization. Like the fossil is like something old that is just stuck in that. So fossilization have the type. The first one is the global and the local. So what is the global fossilization is? So it's like global, we can say like when we are here global is like all the thing, like the big one. So the whole language system in our brain maybe is can stop developing. It's like can be grammar, our pronunciation, our vocabulary. It's like everything we just stuck in there. Like you can communicate, maybe we can communication with the um native speaker, but my grammar, my accent is never can be reached the native level. So it can be global facilitation, and then the local facilitation is like our skill of the language is just stuck in a several part, not all the part that it stop improving or stuck improve. Like my grammar is great, but my pronunciation and my accent is can heavily cannot changing again. So it can be local facilitation. And then the next is product and process of the facilitation. The product is like the final result, like the final of the our mistake that is stuck or frozen. So we call that is the product of the facilitation, and the process is like the process or the journey for or the mechanism that makes the mistake is can be freeze. um yeah. And then cognitive and also performance view, I read this too. It's like the cognitive view is like it happens in our inside the brain, and adults learner like our brains cannot fully receive their language system. And the performance view, like we show up in speaking and writing, so the errors can we see actually and we can hear too. And temporary versus permanent facilitation. So temporary is like the mistake that is always repeated can be corrected with more learning and practice. And permanent facilitation, it's like our errors like stay, even like we do the practice even a years, it will stay in there. So yeah, the the takeaway that I can get in here is like the transfer like show our first language effect to our second language. It can be positive, it can be negative too. And facilitation like show how some errors become permanent, like the phrase or stack even there's long exposure and practice. And then yeah, the realization both of that from the transfer and facilitation actually is like why we are learn often keep certain habits, or even after our years of longer after years of learning, we have the old language rules in the limits of the brain as can be worked together. I think that's all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.